Good afternoon, everyone. I hope after lunch I make this session a little bit interesting. So what I'm going to do is try to keep the initial part a little bit simpler, and then as we go, I just have 20 minutes, so I'll try and see how much I can cover in this particular topic. Yeah. So let me start with a number that should concern all of us out here, and let's say 85. Any guesses what this number is? It's from an analyst, Gartner. Okay, it's a percentage that Gartner, according to Gartner, is how many AI projects fail. And these projects are not failing because AI is not smart enough. These projects are failing because of something very fundamental, and that fundamental thing that is required, and it is about data access and integration. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this session for the next 20 minutes, all about on how the emerging architecture is changing to bring this AI and integration world together. All right, so let's just get into it. Let me first start by just giving you some introduction on something that you guys are all familiar with, but some context to it as well. The rise of Gen AI has created a massive enthusiasm across the enterprises, across organizations and consumers as well, right? But enterprise and business leaders today, if you go and speak to them, they all want to use Gen AI in their apps. Yes? No? Yep. All right. So for sure, what you can do is as a team, as a services team, as consultants and all, we can start plugging in these AI models into an app. But for an AI project to be successful, it requires more than just that. Yeah. As an example, think about a retailer who used Gen AI to power their customer service. Yeah. And only to realize a little bit later that for that customer service to work properly, they needed an access to their order information, order data. And what they were getting out of an AI by just using ChatGPT was something that was just guessing. The AI was just guessing. Yeah, and that's what was happening. So if you look at Gen AI or ChatGPT, right, what lies at the core of it is something that you have heard throughout the day and you have been hearing is around the large language models, the LLMs, right? And LLMs are like, think about them as a supercharged auto-complete engine, which you give a prompt and it gives you a response out there. And that's an experience that we get out of a Gen AI or any of those ChatGPTs that are out there or models that are out there. Okay, so LLMs, if you look at it, are as good as the data that they are trained in. Yeah, they don't know what's happening now. They have no access to the real-time data. They have no context. They don't have an ability to act, right? It lacks the capability to be able to interact with the external systems or data sources that are there across the organization. And that's the limitation that you see out there with LLMs. To mitigate that, what we have seen is the techniques like RAG, right? Retrieval augmented generation is something that emerged. And RAG enhances your prompts. It helps you to retrieve documents from your vector databases, using the semantic search. Yeah. Now, what this also allows you is to incorporate more accurate and contextual relevant information into the responses. But even with RAG, LLMs still remain limited to text in and text out, right? It does give you the context, it does give you that, but it still is a text in and text out that you get out of it. And they can't, again, access real-time data, they can't trigger any actions, they can't interact with the real or digital world that is out there, what we need as a scenario that we just spoke about. And this is where it restricts the usefulness in certain scenarios that requires dynamic decision that you need to take as a part of the request that is coming in, or the system level changes that you need to make. Yeah, and that's where what we need is an AI that can access real-time data, it can trigger actions, it can actually change things. This requires a fundamental shift in architecture from passive models to more like an agent that can perform tasks autonomously and respond to dynamic conditions. And this is where we have seen the architectures over the years evolving, and today we all talk about something called AI agents, right? You started with LLMs, you give a prompt, you get a response, you then got RAG, and today what we are looking at is AI agents. So AI agents have three defining characteristics, right? They are autonomous, they are intelligent, and they act by using tools. That's what the AI agent does. So think of it this way. We have moved from an AI that can think and speak to an AI that can think, speak, and do. The do part is where the APIs become mission critical. Okay? And that's where we're heading into. So, how does this AI agent look like? If you look at on the one side of an AI agent, you have the three characteristics that we spoke about. On one side, you have intelligence and autonomy. This is where the ability to make plans, reflect on the outcomes, iterate on tasks, collaborate with other agents is what happens out there. This is the brain of an agent. Okay? On right-hand side, what you see are the skills that agent requires and what we call tool usage. This is where the agent acquires knowledge by getting real-time data, enterprise data, through APIs. It's where the agent acts based on the knowledge by triggering actions. Okay? And you can look at what that knowledge and the skill and the tool will also do is things like be able to search, be able to store in memory, be able to get data in real time and trigger actions all using APIs. And that's what we are talking about from the characteristics that you see on the agent. And how do we get there? And this is what brings us to the topic of today that we are going through. A virtuous cycle that's transforming AI and integration. Okay? Enterprise AI projects increasingly rely on integration. And if you look at as the business pursue on this AI-driven transformation, they require robust connectivity to your internal systems. Yeah? APIs and integration provide that platform. They provide the necessary infrastructure that is required to access those internal data or internal systems that you need access to. This would enable AI agents to access data, perform actions, and deliver value across the business processes that you're looking at. Let's dive a little bit into this on how we enable those agents to integrate with the applications that they need access to, how to access those tools. Yeah? Let's say you have an agent that you are building. This agent would have typically a model, that's an LLM, and then you would have a tool configuration capability within that agent that is there. On the down below, what you see out here are your enterprise systems, your applications, where you as an enterprise have invested across decades of different things that you have done. That's where your assets are sitting. That's where your enterprise data is sitting, right? What you need is an ability to connect this, the AI agent to the tools that are available for you, and that's what you need out there. There are different alternate options to be able to achieve that. The traditional way could be all of these applications sitting out there would have its own APIs, own mechanism to connect, and you can say, hey, I'm going to use direct APIs from agent to connect to these applications that are sitting out there. Or you can think about an AI framework like LangChain that can help you to build those integrations or get access to those tools below. Or you can have custom function calls that you can implement in your agents and so on. Right? Now, all of these, what will happen is these approaches will lead to fragmentation. And I think we are all familiar with integration and how integration and APIs have evolved. And we used to talk about this point-to-point integration in the past, which led to whole fragmentation. But again, from the AI agent perspective, what's happening today is every department that's embarking on that is looking their own way, own approach to get access to these tools. And this is where, if you continue with those approaches, what is going to happen is it's going to lead to that fragmentation, right? And this fragmentation will then lead to inefficiencies. It will hinder the scalability across your projects and platforms. Okay, this approach would be unsustainable. So what you need is something that provides a standardized way of doing it, standardized way of getting access to these tools. And this is where you see today everybody talks about model context protocols, MCP, right? So what does MCP do? MCP basically addresses the challenges around the fragmentation that we just spoke about by providing standardized interface for connecting LLMs and to tools and data sources. It enables things like tool discovery, contextual integration, and cross-platform reuse of those integrations, right? What MCP does is, if you have to just look at a little bit in detail, how do we put this in practice, is you will have an MCP server that basically exposes your data, your functions, your services, and makes it available to your AI agent. On the AI agent side, how will it get access to these tools is you have an MCP host that will be sitting at the agent, and it will retrieve those list of tools from MCP server, right? And this would be provided to them via LLM prompt, okay? When LLM then responds to a request that has been provided or a prompt that has been provided, it can ask the AI application now to call any of those tools that it has retrieved with specific parameters. Okay, and that's how it operates to get those dynamic information from the applications that are sitting out here. Okay, so that's great. You can access the tools, you can access the stuff out here. But again, like what you would have seen in the previous world, when we started with APIs and all, we need to make sure that it's the right consumers that are accessing the information out here. So you need MCPs that have an ability to authenticate, authorize, otherwise it's a huge security risk. So you need those governance, you need those policies that will help you to be able to govern those requests. And this is where the concept of MCP gateway comes in. Okay? This gateway sits between your AI agents and your enterprise systems, providing authentication, authorization, rate limiting, and monitoring, logging, those kind of policies or requirements that you have to make sure it's the right MCP client that's accessing this. Okay? Now, here is a thought on what that gateway capabilities might look like. Now, you might say, hey, this looks pretty familiar, something similar to what API gateways and AI gateways have been doing. Yeah, that's what we see as a IBM, that, hey, this is where it needs to go. The MCP servers, that everything that we are implementing will require similar kind of capabilities out here. And that's a kind of a model that we have put together. What that would also mean is something that we should be thinking about at some point. A game-changing capability would be to bring all these gateways together, a single unified gateway, right? That provides unified governance, that provides one set of policies, one set of security model, right? One platform to access and able to monitor all your stuff within the same platform, right? And that's what is something that we should be thinking about as what we can see how the gateways could be evolving. Okay, coming back to what I started with, here are some other stats about what Gartner was talking about in terms of need for data access. We have also got some stats from McKinsey and all, and if you look at across the board, they're all talking about that, hey, you need something that can help you to access data and be able to integrate that better. Some of the other challenges that we have seen customers are facing, and I think it was spoken up in the panel discussion earlier, is around API sprawls, right? So while you need access to those tools, you need access to those APIs, we see a lot of APIs being created, which is creating API sprawl. And to solve those problems, there are gateways being implemented. And now, one of the other topics that was discussed in the panel also earlier was about federated API management, right? Where you can see many of these organizations having multiples of those API gateways today being implemented, and we need something to get a centralized view around that and have a federated capability into this. Lastly, when we talk about integration, when we talk about getting access to the data, we are also talking about the challenges that you're facing in the integration landscape, right? You need integration, different patterns to be supported, be it app integration, your apps are deployed on cloud, your apps are deployed on-prem, you have mainframe out there, you need messaging-driven approach, you have partner integration out there, the B2B kind of integration that's lying out there. So you need to be thinking about how am I going to even look at holistic view on solving this integration challenges that organizations have today, where they have got point-in-time integration, but that has created a sprawl of integration vendors within an organization to be able to get the benefit of this. Okay, and here, and in interest of time, I'll not go into details, I've just quickly gone in, but if you look at from the best practices that you've got on from API management, where we are talking about governance, we are talking about the specs, the validation and all, here are some best practices that I'm outlining, right? Taking from the experience that we have from APIs on what could be the best practice in terms of implementing your MCP solutions out there. And from integration perspective, I think we have heard this about this later also earlier as well, is about trying to look at a unified platform that can take care of different integration patterns, be able to help you to have a centralized management, centralized deployment options, be able to monitor your integrations from the central location, and at the same time, then be able to make sure that when new integrations come in, it's easy to incorporate those and expose those as APIs to be consumed by our AI consumers out there. Okay, quickly looking at the other side of the cycle is all about, well, we talk about AI requiring integration, but how is AI being used to also make sure that we can make more integration and API development life cycles more productive? And this is where across the life cycle, what we see is an ability for us to be also leveraging AI to drive those life cycle, right? From development to test to build to operate to deploy kind of stuff, where AI can play, or AI agents can play a big role in driving those integration cycles faster, right? Here is an example of what we have done with one of our solution, where you can use natural language processing, and using that give commands, give prompts in terms of what you're looking at. The system or the agent will identify that, work in the background to connect with all the different applications that are there and generate that integration flow that you are looking to build very quickly using what we call as an integration agent in our world. Yeah, similarly, this is what we have done with our API management as well. Again, something this was discussed earlier in the panel, just quickly running through that, where it allows you to discover your APIs very quickly. It allows you to design your APIs based on some prompts that you have created. It allows you to also validate against the policies that you have created in your API platform to go through, hey, these are following those policies, and then be able to deploy a API on the gateway and test it out. Yep. So here is how you can see how AI is able to help also to drive your integrations much faster. Yep. Thank you. I just get a prompt saying that I'm running out of time, but thank you very much. Just with the closing, I would say uh, uh, if you are embarking on an AI journey, if you're looking at that, right, I do see some people spending time on models and everything, but think about it that if those models need to be dynamic and something that needs to take a decision, then think about how you are going to have your integration journey working with your AI agents out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jigar. You were quite on time.